Hello and welcome to yet another exciting edition of Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. I am your host, Murna Barnabas Atiai. Today on the program, we shall be looking at the fight against corruption vis-a-vis Nigeria's ratings on the Corruption Perception Index by the global anti-corruption watchdog, the Transparency International, and if such ratings are true reflections of the country's anti-corruption drive. First, let us join Hawa Garba for anti-corruption stories.
Hello, welcome to this segment of the program Corruption Must Go. I am Hawa Garba. The Chief Judge of the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Justice Ishaq Bello, has said that 12 new judges would be specifically designated to handle corruption cases in order to speed up the process of prosecuting indicted offenders. Justice Ishaq, in a meeting with the chairman of ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owansoye, said that the 12 new judges would be in addition to others already dedicated to handling corruption cases.
I want to assure you that once we are done with the appointment of new judges, I'm having 32 now coming on board. I will dedicate 12 out of the 32 mainly for the adjudication on, well, predominantly on adjudication regarding the corruption cases. This is intended to see that we create an avenue for expeditious handling and disposal of such cases. Now, what we will need in a situation like that is immediate training, particularly on areas of our feature, which is very paramount to your mandate, yes, sir, and crucial to the nation.
Earlier, Professor Owansoye had complained that some processes, such as difficulty in obtaining court and bankers' orders, delay in the time between the filing of the commission cases and the actual time that it would be assigned, were frustrating the work of ICPC. He lamented that it sometimes took up to 6 months for a filed case to be assigned to a judge.
The fourth point, sir, is about obtaining orders and rulings. It's very difficult after orders have been made for us to get the rulings or the judgments of the court. Sometimes some of those orders are time-bound, and sometimes, sir, we're not even able to get them until the order has lapsed.
A bench warrant has been issued by Justice Ijoma Ojukwu of the Federal High Court in Abuja for the arrest of a former Comptroller General of Customs, Abdullahi Inde Diko, to ensure his attendance in court to take his plea on the next adjourned date for his arraignment by ICPC on fraud charges. This was sequel to an application brought by ICPC Prosecution Counsel, E.A. Shogunle, when another scheduled arraignment could not hold due to the absence of the accused person in court. Justice Ojukwu granted the Commission's prayer over continued failure of the former Comptroller General to attend court for his arraignment. While ordering Diko's arrest, Justice Ijoma noted that his lawyer, Solomon Akuma, SAN, who on the last adjourned date had assured the court that his client was going to be present in court, only turned around to present a medical report claiming that he was critically ill and on admission in London. The judge also ordered that if in the execution of the bench warrant it is discovered that the accused was actually ill and receiving treatment in a London hospital, then the execution shall be suspended. Otherwise, the prosecution should arrest him and produce him in court on 16th March 2020, which is the next adjourned date for the arraignment. Diko, alongside two others, Garba Makarfi and Umar Hussaini, is facing multiple charges that include defrauding the managing director of Gambia Limited, Mr. Yemi Obadeyi, of 1.1 billion naira. A former rector of Igbajo Polytechnic, Igbajo, Osun State, Mr. Olaolu Akinola Olugbenga, has been arraigned by ICPC before Honorable Justice Wasiu Oladejo Akombi of Osun State High Court 2, sitting in Osogbo, on a 4-count charge bordering on alleged forgery and making false statements. Mr. Olugbenga was accused of procuring a forged Doctor of Philosophy (PhD) certificate from the University of Ibadan, with which he used to gain employment into Igbajo Polytechnic, Igbajo, Osun State. ICPC's findings revealed that sometime in February 2003, the accused person presented to Igbajo Polytechnic a forged notification of result that showed the conferment of a doctorate degree on him by the University of Ibadan. The accused person pleaded not guilty to all the charges when they were read to him, and by way of oral application, his lawyer pleaded with the court to grant him bail. He was obliged by Justice Akombi, in line with the terms of the administrative bail earlier granted the accused by ICPC, with additional condition that his sureties must be civil servants of grade level 14 or above, working within the jurisdiction of the court. The judge also added that they should produce 5 million each in like sum and must be present in court for the next adjourned date of 26th March 2020. That's all from this segment of the program. Corruption Must Go continues with Murna.
They say every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, is watching you. If you're reported for any corrupt practice, you'll be investigated, prosecuted, and punished. Corruption is harmful to our nation. Join the campaign against it by reporting any corrupt practice to ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Let we join hands with ICPC, make them better. Let's make Nigeria great again. ICPC, they want you. Come on, hand for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Welcome back. Corruption has been identified as an impediment and a challenge to Nigeria's quest for development. In fact, 2 decades ago, the country was rated the second most corrupt in the world. Successive governments have made deliberate attempts to improve on this situation. In spite of all their efforts, which include preventive anti-corruption initiatives, prosecution of high-profile cases, the whistleblower policy, asset seizures and recoveries, e-government systems, amongst others, Nigeria has not been getting favorable ratings. Executive Director CISLAC Awal Rafsanjani speaks.
My take on this is that government needs to address some of the gaps and some of the continuous happening, in terms of impunity, in terms of absence of, certain policy and legal framework, in terms of also absence of effective implementation of some of our laws in Nigeria. For example, for us to have a better change in the corruption perception index, we need to look at the different indices and different corruption cases that have been happening. For example, corruption in the procurement is one of the major areas that government needs to address. As long as corruption in the procurement will continue to happen, our rating will not improve. If government agencies continue to disregard freedom of information requests from the citizens, there's no way, our rating will be improved. And if also corruption in public sector, for example, in education, in health, in even getting government appointment, if corruption in those places continue to happen, there's no way our rating will be improved. If corruption in the security sector is not addressed, and we do not have serious reform that will address those areas, there's no way our rating will improve. And again, if the political corruption in the country is not drastically addressed, there's no way our rating will improve. So Nigerian must initiate a process of reform in the area of electoral integrity, because if there's too much corruption in the electoral process and in the political party also, you have a lot of undemocratic practices, lack of internal democracy and lack of accountability within the party system, there's no way our rating will improve. And again, if corruption in the judiciary will not be addressed, there's no way our rating will change. So Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International is not measuring the anti-corruption work of EFCC or ICPC or any government agencies, but is talking about corruption that Nigerians and international business partners of Nigeria that are experiencing anytime they come to encounter with general public. For example, many Nigerians, when they want to do passport, they encounter with corruption. They will tell you there's no booklet, you have to pay money. Then suddenly the booklet will come out. The same thing with driving license, the same thing also with national identity card. So if you do not deal with some of this corruption that Nigerians are experiencing on a daily basis, there's no way our rating will change. So we believe that Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International is a wake-up call for the Nigerian government to close gaps where we have lapses. It is not antagonistic thing. It is simply waking you up that in the public sector, Nigerians and many business community, international community that have come to encounter with these public institutions are experiencing corruption. Even hospital, when you go, before you get bed sick, you have to pay a bribe, or the doctor may not even be there. They may even refer you to their own private personal clinics. These are some of the things that Nigerians are going through. Or you go to the police station, you encounter a lot of unpredictable sin from the security agencies. So I think there's no point for government to dismiss this rating. Some Nigerians are even saying that it shouldn't be called perception. It's a reality that Nigerians are facing with. But TI, in its methodology, it calls it perception. And yet, sometimes government get upset, when Nigerians are even experiencing reality of this corruption cases. And that is why you see even government had to sack the whole head of service because of corruption. If there's no corruption, the head of service will not be sacked. If there was no corruption, secretary to the government will not be sacked. So there's no point to be dismissing all these things. And that is why EFCC and ICPC have been busy arresting, interrogating and prosecuting so many people found guilty or involved in corruption. So if there's no corruption, all these agencies will not be doing the work that they are doing. This is an evidence to show that yes, we are actually living with corruption, and there's need for government to do more in terms of dealing with corruption. So we commend ICPC for its educative program, civic education program, to even prevent the corruption from happening. Because if you don't need to waste public taxpayers' money chasing the criminals or the people that committed offense, when you can actually prevent them through preventive measures, through blocking leakages before you even start trying to arrest them, spend money going to court. What you may succeed and you may not succeed, because sometimes when you don't have competent lawyers and you do not also have concrete evidence, you will go to court and you lose. So we think that government agencies should pay attention more in terms of preventing this corruption situation from happening, rather than allowing it to happen and then we start working toward addressing them.
Okay.
You're still watching Corruption Must Go. ICPC Chairman Professor Bolaji Owasonye also speaks on the current rating, whether it is a true reflection of the rate of corruption in the country.
I think the Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International, as a number of people have challenged that outcome in terms of his rating of Nigeria, and that it goes against the facts that are evident on the ground. But much more importantly is the fact that as a perception index, it cannot be compared with a reality index, which was released like a month or so before the TI report came out. Sometime in December 2019, UNODC and National Bureau of Statistics and all that released a report on Nigeria's anti-corruption effort. This was not a perception index. They interviewed perhaps maybe about 30,000 people or thereabouts, I'm not very sure of the number now, about their experience with the fight against corruption, giving specific examples. And the report is there for anybody to see. It was very clear that even though the improvement was not too great, but there was an improvement, no matter how marginal. So if you compare that finding with a perception index, which is a perception, what it is, what do you think? If you have no idea of what is going on in a particular sector, you just give your opinion, which may run very, very wildly far from the reality. So I think that, as I've said in a previous interview, the TI-CPI does not add up. The second reason, apart from the example that I've given about compared to a reality index whereby Nigerians were interviewed, recorded and all that from all over the country, and they gave their view. Secondly, on all of there are internationally prescribed parameters for rating a country in its anti-corruption efforts. They will look at your enforcement measures, especially against politically exposed persons. They will look at your prevention measures. Okay, what sort of measures are you taking to diminish and prevent corruption from happening? Because as they say, prevention is better than cure. And then thirdly, they will look at how robustly you give space to media and civil society to interrogate anti-corruption issues and all that. And Nigeria has been rated on all of this. And fourthly, by the way, is asset recovery. Your effort in asset recovery and the impact that you are making. On all four areas, Nigeria is prosecuting a lot more politically exposed persons now than ever before. Preventive measures are being taken now than ever before. If you look at the use of the Treasury single account, the government directives on BVN, okay, the government launched the Open Treasury, whereby all payments must be digital, not just digital. Daily there will be a publication of transactions above, I think, 5 million or thereabouts. Government has launched other components of its electronic payment system, the GIFMIS, through which e-governance platform, through which payments are made to bring more people. The government is insisting that everybody must get on IPs. These are all prevention measures. Then when you look at asset recovery, the government is doing everything to recover stolen assets, both from within and outside the country. And finally, if you look at the engagement of media and civil society, anti-corruption agencies do not isolate media or civil society in the work that they are doing. If you take our constituency tracking project, for example, media and civil society are part of the team. We do not hide anything from them. They follow us to do tracking and they give their own reports. So on all fronts, the TI perception index remains what it is, perception. I think the reality on the ground for those, we may not be where we want to be, but we're not where we used to be. We've moved forward. And that's my view and that's my position. Well, if somebody is fixated on a perception, if you want to change somebody's perception, sometimes they say perception is stronger than reality. Somebody believes that you are a man, for example. No matter how you try to call the attention of the person, they say, no, 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 that's a woman, not a man. He's fixated in that view. How do you change it? It's almost impossible, you know. However, I think that in the fullness of time, it will be realized that perhaps the expectation is that there's going to be a quantum leap. But fighting corruption, hardly do you find that a country would move by quantum leaps. But it must move. Sure. That's important. If you are not moving at all, that's very bad. It must move. And I think that we're working very hard to continue to improve the rating. We know that we're not where we used to be. We know that things have changed. Nigerians know that things have changed. It may not be perfect, and it is definitely not perfect. It's not as good as we want it to be, but it's not what... So we'll continue to work hard to make sure that we get to where we want to be.
Yeah, relax. That is my brother, and I want him out of this station now.
We have proceed.
Okay. Can I just see the IPO of this case? IPO, how are you?
No, welcome, sir.
That is my brother, and I want him out of this station now.
Do you know the offense he has committed, sir?
What do you guys want for the weekend? Okay, let me see your DPO.
This way, sir.
Oh, better. You don't know who is here. That boy is my brother, and I want you to assist me to free him.
The man found in the gun, confessed to robbery.
Things like this happen. 200,000 naira for you.
Are you bribing me?
500,000 naira.
Robbery suspect?
1 million naira.
That is corruption. Not allowed in this division.
1 million.
Remember,
police is your friend. Giving and taking bribe is wrong.
Corruption, not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
From the informed opinion expressed by the Commission's chairman, you will agree with me that the latest corruption rating by TI may not be a true reflection of the level of corruption in the country, but it should serve as a spur for us to do more to rid our country of this debilitating scourge. That's our package for today. See you again next week. Bye for now.